English. And then this is us going down into the bomb shelter. They said, we need to let you know about this place first, okay? So if the siren goes off, come down here, because this is on the Mediterranean coast, kind of near Tel Aviv, where they are shooting rockets, Ashkelon and Ashdod, that area. And so we go down into this bomb shelter, and all of us fit in there, but it was like kind of like a glorified storage room, because thankfully I don't think they've had to use it very often. But this is in the congregation, and then here are some of the Holocaust survivors. 120 to 150 of them came to this event on two or three different buses, and they were bussed in, and all of these different wonderful gifts were given to them. We first put these baskets together on carts, I should say, on wheels, and there was 150 of them. We assembled them, put the wheels on them, and all of this our group did. And by the way, we just had landed, and we're fighting sleep. And they said, we're going to do this event to keep you awake so that you don't suffer with jet lag the rest of the week. And so there's Mrs. Hoover right here handing out cheese graters. And they're getting all these wonderful gifts. And there's blankets and all kinds of things. This is a pastor from Colorado. Here's a pastor from Detroit. This is an assistant pastor from Georgia. How many of you know, what's his pastor's name? He's preached here for us. But he was at Falls. I can't remember his name. But his assistant.
It's fitting that I'm from Wisconsin, and they gave me the cheese graters. That's all I had to say.
There was lots of jokes that week, yes. And Pastor Rehoff from Pewaukee was with us, and him and his wife. We had a great time. And Billy Ingram, I'm sorry, that's the name I was thinking of. His assistant pastor was with us there.
Average age of these people were 85 to 100. So these people would have been children, but definitely have, major trauma and things. So they have like a little club, and they all kind of hang out together. They don't really talk about any of the Holocaust things, but they just get together. And so it was a lovely group of people, and so it was interesting.
Yeah, they were mentioning that this is like, because of the war that's been going on, this is like kind of is bringing things back to the front, back to the fore for them in their minds, things that they had gone through in Russia. And so it was a very great opportunity to show the love of Christ to them and to, I guess, stay awake for a few hours. But we go to our hotel, I should say. This is the bus rode the whole week, and it's a Mercedes, and there's a door in the front and a door in the back, and all of our luggage was underneath there, and all 50 of us rode that big bus everywhere. And our driver, his name was Shlomo, and I kind of thought his name was funny. He was not slow, but he didn't drive slow. He was good. But Shlomo spoke only Hebrew as far as I know, or maybe just he didn't speak English. But he was a real kind man, and he drove us around, and he got us around very tight places in Jerusalem even, and in some smaller towns, which was quite amazing. The hotel that we stayed at was actually right on the Mediterranean Sea, and we got to see that, and Mrs. Hoover got a nice picture. This is, I think, from our balcony. We could kind of look out and see that. We didn't spend a lot of time there, though, but we did try the food. We tried it because we had to eat something, right? And it was great food, and you see the hummus there, and all the really fresh, just a lot of fresh food, and it was a blessing getting to try a lot of new things, except I did not try the St. Peter's fish, as I mentioned. I wish I had, but I didn't get a chance to, or I didn't do it.
And they don't really have breakfast food, lunch food, dinner food. Like America, we eat certain things for breakfast, certain things for lunch, certain things for dinner. It's dinner all day. I think they made like scrambled eggs because we're American for us, but you could tell, they were not very good, but they were trying to be kind. But most of it just looked like this: lots of fresh vegetables, and fruits, and hummus, and mushrooms,
and all
olives.
Of that good stuff.
Yeah.
How many of you like that kind of food? You ever had it? Okay. There's places around here that you could try it. And
cheese, goat cheese.
Lots of goat cheese. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned the St. Peter's fish too. But we were down here. This is kind of where we were. Jerusalem's over here, but we were in this area by the Mediterranean. But then we go up to Nazareth. Let me go back if I can. We travel from here all the way up here to Nazareth. And how many of you know anything about Nazareth? Can you just tell me what you know about Nazareth. Anything? You're like, Pastor, we're here to hear from you, Pastor, about Nazareth. Jesus was from Nazareth. Okay, you knew that. I know. Nobody wanted to say it. And you didn't want the simple, easy answer. That's what I was looking for. But Nazareth, which is kind of near the Sea of Galilee. Nazareth is up in the mountains, up in the hills, and there's a place there called Nazareth Village. And you can see this lady here actually making some fabric. She's making a scarf or whatever it is, and she's weaving it all together. But she's also making the thread and the string out of this wool. Very interesting. And you see this guy here making some clay pots and lamps, and they're reenacting. I mean, we're not actually going in, this is not an actual place where people are living. They're actors. Nazareth looks like a city. It's got neighborhoods, and it reminded me a lot of Brooklyn, like lots of shops and people living above the shops, and so it doesn't really look obviously like it did. So they carved out a little piece of it and made it almost identical to what it would have been. So that's what we're looking at here. They have some archaeological things here, but it's mostly been manufactured. But this is would be an olive press. This is actually the press here. And these weights would be what causes the press to work. There's two of them. There's one over here. And then this is a grinding wheel where the olives will go into first, and then after they go through the grinding process, they go into these baskets and then into the actual press over there. Very interesting. I mentioned on Sunday that Gethsemane is the olive press. Here, this is Nazareth. So, modern day Nazareth. But we're in the village here. As you can see down here, some olive trees. They have a very distinct look. And then we go to Magdala. So we leave Nazareth and we go on the bus all the way over here to a place called Magdala. And I believe that's where Mary Magdalene is from. And then Mrs. Hoover, she's got something to say about the place we were staying at right here. I have to click it again. There we go.
Today we are in Magdalena, and we are staying at the Magdala Hotel. Just beautiful, super historic, and so today we are just touring around the grounds of the hotel. They have a well here right in the middle that they have moved into the building, and it's just beautiful. So we're also going to go to the Sea of Galilee today and a few other things. So here we go, another day.
So if you can see, you can't really, this is an excavation site. Right here's the hotel that we stayed in. As you see, it's kind of an L-shaped because they have this little area right here that's covered. That's an ancient synagogue that possibly Jesus would have met at and taught at. And they didn't know it was there until they started to build the hotel. So in Israel, anytime they build something or dig, they have to have an engineer like we would, but also an antiquities person and an archaeologist on site. And anytime they find something, they have to determine, is this something that we want to preserve?
Do you remember the price it was per square foot?
Oh, you're talking about Jerusalem where they were digging?
Yeah,
so there's one spot in Jerusalem where I'll mention the steps that Jesus would have walked on. But in order for them to excavate that site, which they just found 20 years ago, it's taken them a long time. And this site took a long time to build the hotel. The hotel went bankrupt because of the site that they had to excavate. The hotel literally went bankrupt, and they had private donors came in and rescued the whole project. But there's a site in Jerusalem where Jesus walked on the steps. They said that, and they did a conversion into our dollars and the way we think, but every yard, I believe it was $180,000 to excavate. And it's this maybe 10-foot, 12-foot wide tunnel down some steps. And so it's excavated underneath homes, businesses, and not like here. Here they would have, enacted some law, eminent domain. They would have just taken over the house and said, too bad, so sad, here's some money. And no, there they just dug right under the houses. They said, we're going to do this and let people still live in the site. But $180,000 every 3 feet, and it's a half-mile long tunnel. And so I don't know what that would have come out to, but millions and millions of dollars. I think it's every 30 feet would be a couple $1 million if you think about that. So extrapolate that into a half a mile, and that's how expensive this is. But this site here, which is really, really neat, they started excavating, and then they moved the hotel, and then there's a beautiful window that Mrs. Hoover just walked past, and you can see out into this, what they call the most beautiful synagogue in the country. And there's mosaic floors, and there's what they don't know what it is. It's a big stone that was carved, and it's movable, but it might have been like a pulpit or something. And synagogues are places where people will sit in and talk to one another, and they face each other when they meet in synagogue. But the rock that they found that was carved has pictures of all of the different implements of the temple, which is really interesting. But here are houses, basically a foundation of houses that would have been in this village. This is Magdala, where Mary Magdalene, the lady that was delivered of 7 devils, may have lived in one of these houses. But this is a road or a street, and there's different thresholds. You can go into some of these businesses or houses or whatever they were. And some of the houses, they have ceremonial pools, mikvahs, where people would have cleansed themselves. It's a long ways to get down to Jerusalem from here, so they would have had ceremonial cleansings and maybe would have met here for their synagogue. Here's an actual picture of one of the mikvahs that's in a house. Steps down to it, and there would have been living water, flowing water going through this site, and they were all connected. And they didn't know this was there until a few years ago. So only about, they say 1 to 5%. I've heard different people say 1%, 5% of the country is excavated, or the archaeological sites have been found or have been excavated. So not very much. So there's a lot that's hidden underground. And every time they find something, all the naysayers of, David was just some figurehead. He was not actually a king. There's no such thing as the kingdom of David. And 20 years ago, 30 years ago, they've uncovered things, and all of the liberal critics of the Bible have been silenced one by one by one. We see then the Mount of Beatitudes. So near Magdala, we went up to this area kind of, actually right up here, north of Capernaum is the Mount of Beatitudes, where Jesus, Matthew 5, 6, read the Sermon on the Mount. After he preached the Sermon on the Mount, he came down here to Capernaum and he healed a leper, if you remember that story. We have a few pictures of the Mount of Beatitudes. I don't know if we got a picture. I think I took a picture of each one of the stones as you walk up. These aren't original. This is not something that they uncovered. We're pretty sure that this was placed there later. But it's in English, which you don't always see that in Israel. If you see English, it's usually underneath Hebrew and Arabic. But this is all in English. But there's a church that they built here. If I remember correctly, the church has like a blackish stone look to it, which is the stone that they have in that area. Some of the Capernaum, the town of Capernaum, is black, this black stone. It's basalt, it's volcanic rock. And they have that all over the place up there, which is beautiful. All right, so here's Capernaum, the town of Jesus. Again, that black rock there. And they're very, very proud of Jesus here in Capernaum. But if you remember what Jesus spent a lot of his ministry here. But he does talk about their lack of faith, doesn't he? And this is the site where there's a church. Looks like a big spaceship. I'm not showing you the whole church, but it's built over this. It's like basically floating over this site. This is an old 8-sided octagonal Byzantine era 3rd century church that was built on a site here in Capernaum that they believe was Peter's house, possibly Peter's house. Of course, that's a very important site to Catholics. It's important to us as well, but they believe that he was their first pope, So that's a very important site to them. Very few people here. Like a lot of places that you'll travel to, the tourism is a big part of their economy, but their tourism has dropped off about 75% since October of 2023. And so a lot of these places, we're the only people there. And it's also in between the seasons. It's not really even tourist season, so we were able to get to some of these places and see a lot. More of that site. Okay. This is this is the village of Capernaum. Like we showed you that area near Magdala. Same thing, these foundations of houses. Oh, there's a spaceship. Now you can see it.
This would have been like an apartment complex.
Sea of Galilee in the background. You see these mountains that are that's on the kind of like the Bethsaida shore, kind of that north end of Sea of Galilee. But I don't know what these are. We were kind of wondering what these are. Maybe
I think just like storage shelves.
Storage shelves.
Yeah.
I don't think they had IKEA.
This is a grain, like a grain mill. So they would stick a piece of wood in that square kind of basin-looking rock. And so it looks like it was more of a production line there because there was quite a few of those. And then you would walk into their temple and then walk through there, see those synagogue. Apartments, and then a synagogue. Yeah. And then you'd see those little apartment houses, and then it would be Peter's house. And you can see they've kind of reinforced things, but all of this was just laying on the ground. And so they've reconstructed as much as they can and then tried to preserve it as much as they can.
The Romans came through and destroyed a lot of these sites.
Yeah.
When they destroyed Jerusalem, they came through and destroyed many of these villages. And we actually took a boat ride on the Sea of Galilee. There's the whole thing. It's kind of, I was just trying to look up a lake that we would know of that'd be similar in size. It's even a little bit smaller, but similar to the size of Lake Winnebago.
They said it was very calm. They said they had never seen it that calm
and then
during
we went
a
on
tour. It wasn't too bad, but
well, what we noticed was somebody was like, "Oh, this is so very calm." And then when we got out on the boat, then the winds really started whipping up because I guess it's kind of in a bowl. It's the second lowest lake in the world. The lowest one is the Dead Sea. The lowest town in the world is the city of Jericho. So those mountains aren't very tall, but it just is like a wind tunnel at times. So it can go kind of like our Great Lakes. It can go from calm to stormy very quickly. But we get out on the boat here, and it was a nice sized boat. We had a great time, and they had singing. The guy that runs this boat got saved 30 years ago, and he's a Jewish man, but he got saved 30 years ago, and he loves when Christians come. And so he had, I think the next scene, he said, "Oh, you're from America," and so one of the guys that was helping him took an American flag, and we started singing the Star Spangled Banner, and they raised the American flag here, and which was great. There's Pastor Rehoff right there, if you and you know him, or Jim Scudder's right there. And there's the Sea of Galilee.
It was a little strange. We were like,
no, it was fine.
I mean, not strange, but different. I did not expect to be singing the national anthem on the Sea of Galilee.
Well, we felt very honored. Yeah. You know that they don't have to do that for us, but they had a guy up there singing, and here's Joel Rosenberg. He's getting into it, clapping, as you can see. Here's our tour guide. His name's Dan. He's a born-again Christian, Jewish background, or he's Jewish Israeli citizen, but got saved many years ago, and came back to the States and actually speaks very good English. And he came to Dallas Theological Seminary. So he said he learned English by watching American movies, and but then he refined his skills. And we had these little whisper devices that would go in our ear, and he could talk into it, and so all of us could hear it, kind of like a little radio receiver. And the first day he's like, "Do you want me to do my Hebrew accent or an American accent? And he tried both of them. He said, no, just do the American accent. It's easier to understand you. So then we went to this place called Tel Dan. And it's a Tel, so we're way up here, okay? So just to give you a reference, Sea of Galilee, and then down here, not even showing, is the Dead Sea. And then, so we went all the way up here to Dan. And it's called Tel Dan because a tel is a topographical feature. It's a mound where one city was built and then destroyed, another city built on top, destroyed, and it's like a cake, if you could think of like a multi-layer cake. And it's just city upon city upon city. And actually Tel Dan, the tribe of Dan was up here, and they were conquered several times, and that site was just a lot of city walls, stones built on top of one another. The story of the tribe of Dan is an important lesson. If you want to go to Judges chapter 18, Judges 17, look at this real quick. I thought this was a really interesting story, and I love that our guide, Daniel, was a Christian and just gave us so much information and kind of tied all the pieces together for us from a Christian perspective, which was really great. But Judges chapter 17 and 18 are following the story of Samson, who was a Danite. Samson was from the tribe of Dan. And chapter 17, which we're not going to go to, but it introduces a young Levite from Bethlehem. He becomes a personal priest for a man named Micah, who was not of the tribe of Dan. And but Micah had a shrine to idols, and he had an ephod. He had an idol in his house. And then he's like, well, let me get this guy. I'll hire this priest, the Levite. And Judges chapter 18, we read the story. In those days, there was no king in Israel, and in those days the tribe of the Danites sought them an inheritance to dwell in. For unto the day of their inheritance had not fallen unto them among the tribes of Israel. The Danites want to find a new place to live. And they were initially given land in the central coast of Canaan, but they didn't like it. And they were facing pressures from the Philistines. They were fighting constantly. And they sought a more peaceful place to live. And so they sought the fertile city of Laish, which is up, now it's called Dan. But it was a Canaanite city. In verse 7, they sent in spies. It sounds like another story we've read about, right? And there was, verse 7. Then 5 men departed and came to Laish and saw the people that were therein, how they dwelt careless after the manner of the Zidonians, quiet and secure. And there was no magistrate in the land that might put them to shame in anything. And they were far from the Zidonians and had no business with any man. So they find Laish. It's a peaceful and unsuspecting city, suitable for conquest. Verse 27. And they took the things which Micah had made. Remember, Micah was the guy that had an idol. He had a priest. He had a Levite priest. He had the ephod. So they took the things which Micah had made and the priest. And they haven't gone up to Laish yet. And then they came unto Laish, and they called the name of the city Dan. The Danites conquer Laish. They rename it Dan. And look at verse number 19, going back. They said unto him, here's the part where they take the priest. And they said unto him, hold thy peace, be unto us a father and a priest. Is it better for thee to be a priest unto the house of one man, or be thou a priest unto the tribe and a family in Israel? Remember, one of the sons of Jacob is Dan. This is the tribe of Dan, the Danites. And they find Micah. He's got his Levite priest. And they say, hey, we'd like to have your idol. We'd like to have your priest. And they take that priest with them. And they move up there, desiring an easier life. And it eventually led them into idolatry. And notably with a temple that they established up here in this place. And these are the headwaters of the Jordan River. Actually, Jordan River was not called Jordan until the tribe of Dan ended up in that spot. The headwaters. You look at the northern part of Israel, there's a big mountain called Mount Hermon. And we saw it on our trip. It was covered with snow. And Mount Hermon and the water, the rain, and everything that comes down from that mountain leads to this area, the headwaters of the Jordan River. And the River of Dan and 2 other tributaries lead into the Jordan River. And but sadly, up here, in a beautiful place, the city walls that they've excavated from the tribe of Dan, is also a temple, or not a temple, but a place of worship. And there's Dan sharing from the word.
The gates to the city, so those men were sitting on the stones.
Oh, yeah.
They talk about that in Proverbs, where her husband sitteth at the gates, and so that would be where the men that were the leaders, they would just sit right outside there and kind of do business there.
So we're heading up to what's called a high place, a high part in the city, above the city walls. And if you know in the Old Testament, you read about the groves, the high places. We literally go up to this spot. And it's a place where idolatry happened. This is what they've recreated, is a altar that was where pagan idol worship was done. And then a spot which I don't have a picture of, but where these people are standing back there, that was the actual high place. So they'd have idol worship, then they'd have some terrible, terrible, wicked worship going on up above in this place, the high place. It was kind of looking over a valley. Well, moving on, we go to the Golan Heights for the sake of time here. And we're just kind of looking into the area of the Golan Heights, and a very contested area. You can see into Lebanon, Syria from this site. It's an old military station, complete with tunnels. It says no climbing. Like I said, English, but also Arabic and Hebrew.
This is an abandoned Syrian military bunker on top of this inactive.
I did not go in those tunnels, but he did.
I went into the
I
tunnel.
don't. Nah.
She didn't want to go down.
That was not for me.
It was pretty crazy down there.
Down there. Mm-mm.
They go forever, long ways. I was afraid I wasn't going to make it out, so I eventually turned around. I don't have that video here, but then we go to southern Israel. For sake of time, we're going to move ahead here quickly. But southern Israel.
Today we're right beside the Gaza Strip, and I found these very interesting. These are bus stops, but these are concrete structures that they use for bomb shelters. So you have about 15 to 30 seconds from the time that you hear an alarm to get to some kind of shelter. And so lots of people ride buses, and so they actually have these beside each bus stop, so a place where people can go quickly. So very interesting. It's quiet here today, so we're praising the Lord for that.
So forgive me, we went all the way from northern Israel to southern Israel very quickly. It was about a 3.5 hour drive on that bus. And the nation of Israel, biblically, is from the tribe of Dan to Beersheba, so all the way down south. And we're kind of in that area. We're near the Gaza Strip. We did not go into Gaza, but we were near there. This is a video of the whole group, or part 30 of the group, going into one of the shelters, trying to cram in as many as we could fit. And then this is a kibbutz. It's like a communal type community. It's where people share everything, ultimately. And historically, they would have developed these probably 70, 80 years ago, before Israel was a nation, even 90 years ago. Back in the 30s, I believe they would have developed some of these little towns and cities, and several hundred people live in these today. But there was one particular that we went to. It's called Kibbutz Beeri, and it was a place on October 7th, 2023, where Hamas came in and killed hundreds of people in their homes, unsuspecting. At 6:29 in the morning, they attacked this community. And these folks were used to air raids, or what we would call air raids, I guess, but the rockets, and so they had bomb shelters in their homes. Actually, the Israeli government over 10 years ago came in and provided for each home a bomb shelter. Many times their children's bedroom was the bomb shelter, so the kids wouldn't have to be woken up in the middle of the night, and they could just go in there and find safety. And usually the attacks or the sirens would go off for about 30 seconds or a minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, but these kept going on, and then the people that were inside the shelters, they were hearing machine gun fire and people yelling in Arabic, and the rest you can read about. But this is a very, very somber place. You see the smoke where they brought tires and gasoline into that site. Also the Supernova Music Festival site, where 361 young people between the ages of 20 and 30 were attacked and killed. But then, after all of that, we go, as the story built, the trip built to Jerusalem. So we are on a bus that night after going to those sites, and we are driving into Jerusalem. And then they put over the loudspeaker, Jerusalem. We all started singing. It was a very emotional experience as we were driving up to the city of Jerusalem.
Okay, today we are in, where are we?
We're in Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. Look at this view. On the Mount of Olives
This
today.
Dome of the Rock, you can see in the back there.
Yep.
And here's does anyone know this site? Does anyone know where we're at? I think I said it. The Mount of Olives. And all of these tombs and graves of Jewish people that have decided to be buried on this mountain because the Messiah is going to touch down on the Mount of Olives. We know that's true. But here's the Dome of the Rock. And just some sites that you might recognize. Here's the temple wall. This is the eastern gate right here, where Jesus will ride through that gate someday. And City of David, so we're moving ahead quickly. This is a site that was excavated only 20 years ago when a sewer pipe broke. And they said, oh, we got to clean this up. And as I mentioned before, every site has an engineer, archaeologist, and an antiquities person. And they discovered something they didn't know was there, and that is the original city of Jerusalem. It was actually it was a Jebusite city that King David came and developed the city of David and Jerusalem. And so this is...
You can see there is a square stone with a round hole. Y'all see this? Square stone, round hole. What is that?
This site.
That
right
is
here.
one of the oldest toilets in the world, 2,500 years old.
He's saying that's the oldest toilet in the
This is
world.
discovered at number.
And so we took a picture of that. And so, hey, go home, count your blessings tonight, okay? This is in a palace. This is David's palace was here. I didn't get a lot of pictures. I didn't bring them tonight, but you go home and study the palace of David. Again, like 20, 30 years ago, they said, David, it's just some kind of backwater chieftain. He wasn't really the king of Israel. And we that read the Bible are like, what are you talking about? But secularists, they don't want to accept that. But no, they found his palace. And I need to go back. Here's that 200,000 per meter, or 180,000 per meter excavation site where is adjacent to David's palace are the steps that go down to the Pool of Siloam. They thought the Pool of Siloam was, I think, on the northwest side of the temple, and then they actually find it's below it on the south side. I think there's 37 or 36 of these mikvahs. The Pool of Siloam would have been a cleansing spot. But go ahead.
The shops, I'm sorry. You could see the shops on the side there, those little inlets. So that's where they would shop on the way. It was a big deal. And, thousands of people would be walking up and down here. But you could see this steel, structure they have to build just to dig. It's holding up the city. So you could see huge structure they have to build just to excavate.
Next picture here.
That would have been where Jesus would have stopped and preached. Right up, you can see these little, almost like little platforms.
The pilgrimage road.
Like a rabbi, a spot where rabbis would stand and speak.
Is 100% the same pool of Siloam.
These are steps. So like these are the steps going down this way, but then there have been this between shops. There was like a platform. Possibly Peter, Jesus could have preached there.
We are standing now on the most hallowed half mile anywhere in the world. There is no half mile. That means more.
This side, I think, just opened.
It's not open yet.
It's not even open yet. This guy right here, somebody in our group knew him, and they took us behind the scenes and showed us before anyone else could go. We got to see this pilgrimage road.
Here it is.
In the book of Psalms, it talks about the Psalms of Ascent. I think it's 120 to 130 or something like that. 134. And so these are the literal ascent. You can see that it kind of has an incline.
The songs of ascent, or the Psalms of Ascent, or the songs of degrees. And there's Dr. Tommy Fratwell. He spoke to us on replacement theology.
I'm afraid to look.
The pastor here, Pastor Scudder, Pastor.
Along the Pilgrim Road, you have these podiums, these platforms, where people would be speaking.
Well, it just goes on forever. But it's so important, I think, that they're doing this.
This is the walk up to the temple from the pool of Siloam.
We've already said all this.
Okay. So it goes down and down and down. There's a pastor with his shoes off. He wanted to walk where Jesus walked, I guess. I took my shoes off too, so you'll see that right there. There's my foot. I don't know. It wasn't necessarily important, but well, this is what they built to kind of can't see it, but to show what one of the shops would have looked like. And then you come out to this area that's in the open, and they're excavating right now the pool of Siloam, which is right here. Here's a picture of like the Temple Mount and the steps. I can't see it real good, but you walk out here, and pool of Siloam is right there. Underneath all these tents. So there's archaeologists working underneath this whole area right now. And I guess over the last 10 years, they've been developing this site, and more and more and more has been exposed that people have gone back and they said, I didn't know that was there. They had like that much excavated. Now then it was a 500-foot section, then it was a 1,000-foot section, and now they're actually on the pool of Siloam, which is great. And there's several of us trying to put our shoes back on. Try not to miss the bus, because we had a tight schedule, a lot going on. Of course, we saw the Garden Tomb. Sorry, I'm trying to expedite. There's Golgotha. There's a little bus depot underneath this now. I don't know why they did that, but I guess they didn't buy enough land. But yeah, it doesn't look like it, like you might see in some pictures. Because the nose fell off a few years ago.
The nose fell off 10 years ago, and the bus stop is built over the mouth, so
it's an old
they
wine
don't really
press
have any.
from the time of Jesus. And walking down, there's the tomb. Well, this is one of the sites. This is called Gordon's Calvary. It's the Protestant site. It may not have been this tomb, but it was a tomb like this tomb. And we got our chance to go in there, and we verified it is empty. I didn't realize all of this was there. I guess I didn't really look into this a whole lot, but it was a much bigger tomb in some ways than I realized. There was a couple of different places that somebody could have been placed. There was a embalming area behind where we were taking the video, but behind us there's kind of like an area where they would have come to embalm the bodies. All right. We also went to the Western Wall, which is if you don't know, the Temple Mount itself is not controlled by Jewish people. It's controlled by Muslims. And those in the Jewish faith come to that site because this is the piece that they're allowed to come and be by. They're not allowed to worship on the Temple Mount. In fact, it's not true now, but years ago, if they caught you with your lips moving on the Temple Mount, you'd be arrested. They didn't want anyone up there praying, any Jewish people up there praying, which is pretty crazy.
I didn't know this, but ladies have to go on one side.
That's the ladies' side.
Men have to go on the other side.
Yeah.
And so there's a few things, like when you walk up to the wall, when you leave, you have to take, I think it's 6 or 7 steps backwards. So you can't just turn around and walk away. So we had to have a little bit of a briefing before going down there. So we weren't, disrespectful or did anything.
I actually bought a shofar, if you know what that is, like a ram's horn trumpet in one of the shops before we went here.
Yes, and that was almost a situation.
Yeah, you go through security to get in here, and I didn't know you couldn't take something like that in there. But one of the ladies with us, she said she could speak Hebrew, so she kind of helped us get it through. And she's like, "Keep that in the bag. Don't take it out. If they see you with that, they might confiscate it or whatever."
Because you can't make a bunch of noise.
I guess people go down there and they make a fool of themselves sometimes, and it's a very sacred site for Jewish people. But there's the people of the book, the Jewish people. They have this huge library. There's one on the men's side as well. They'll sit there and read books.
Those are books of prayers.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to the president's home as well, President Herzog. It was kind of neat getting to meet him. We dressed up. I left my suit at Magdala. We finally got it, but I had to borrow a suit from Pastor Tice. But outside here, I think these are, I didn't look up what this was, but I think these are different presidents of Israel through the years. Maybe. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I don't have any pictures of seeing the president because we weren't allowed to. There's only a few official pictures that were allowed.
It's off the record.
They had to be approved. So they have not sent those to us yet, but someday we'll see them. Then we toured the old city at night a couple times. Oh, giant shoes there. The last day we were in Israel, we went to this place called the Knesset. 120 members make up their Senate, basically, or the body. They have a prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, and he's part of the Knesset, and they have a place that they meet, and they work on legislation, and this is actually a viewing gallery for the public, can come in there. It's behind glass because back in the 60s or 50s, somebody threw a hand grenade, not in this location, but when the Knesset was in a different location, and wounded a couple members, including Golda Meir. We went into this boardroom type area and sat there, and our guide, Dan's over here, eventually sat in the middle, and he got the gavel, and they just had a good time playing around.
Our tour guide obviously was very conservative, believer. Our tour guide for the Knesset.
Politically conservative, too.
Politically conservative. Our tour guide that's been with us. But our tour guide for the Knesset was not. And so it was very funny to kind of watch him hold his tongue the whole time.
She was from Brooklyn or somewhere.
Yes.
And she had a very
she would say one thing, and we would all look at Dan and be like,
She had a very thick New York accent. She looked like Judge Judy. And so if you can imagine, she was very opinionated about certain things.
Yes.
And then I kept hearing somebody when we were in the group, because he had been our tour guide, so he was kind of standing back, listening. And I kept hearing somebody sighing really loud. I'm like, who in our group is being really rude right now?
Yeah.
I looked back and it's our tour guide. I was like, okay. Well, he understands because he's actually an Israeli citizen. So he didn't like some things she was saying. But all around Israel, you'll see just talking about or making aware billboards and different things of the attack of Hamas, which, of course, even in our media, it gets kind of lost. The message is lost of what actually happened there. Lastly, and for sake of time, we're going to finish here, but this is Migdal, which means Tower of the Flock. Migdal Eder, which means Tower of the Flock. And this was a special extra tour that was not part of the tour. And Pastor Scudder, because we had a half a day free, he's like, I'm going to go here. And we saw him on the elevator, and we're like, we'll go with you. And so we went and saw this place where they believe this is Boaz's threshing floor. This would have been a sheep coat. It's all overgrown with weeds, of course, because it's been a few thousand years. But there's still shepherds that come into this area. This is Ephratah, means fruitful, and Bethlehem Ephratah. And there's still sheep on these hillsides. And but yet ancient sheep coat where they would have kept the sheep, and then up here was a threshing floor, and then over here is a little cave where they would have probably kept the grain, which you can see here. And they believe that this is where David lived. Boaz, David, possibly even Jacob had buried Rachel here in this area. This is going into where they believe Jesus may have been born, but the Passover lambs would have been born inside of this cave. Oh, I didn't get video there, but there's Mrs. Hoover. I don't know if I must have messed up, but we got to go inside there. It was very, very interesting. There was a big pit when you walk in, and I was like, "What's that?" And Pastor Scudder said, "That's where they buried a priest probably 1,000 years ago." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm going to avoid that spot." And then we met some people. This is Grant. He goes to Day Spring College, and we got to hang out with him a little bit. And then Pastor Rehoff is on the plane on the way home, and we're all fired up. We're going home. And a lot of different Jewish people kept "Are you that group of pastors that came from the United States?" And this young man is a Jewish, Israeli citizen, but Jewish, going back to New York City. And Pastor Rehoff is witnessing to him. And I snapped a picture because he asked if we had gotten a picture of the other young lady they'd been talking to, and I said, "I don't think anyone did." But I gave this to Pastor Rehoff because, it's not every day you get to witness to a Jewish person that's really, really listening and asking a lot of questions, and right after you've been in Israel. So it was just a tremendous time there. I'm sorry it is 8:20, but if there's any questions or anything you'd like to ask, discuss, say, speak now, right? Anything? Come on over. Miss Jessica, go ahead.
I know a lot about the area just by reading, but how is the is it like busy like here, like with traffic and stuff?
Yeah, I would say it's a lot like our cities here. A lot of stoplights like we have, a lot of horns honking, pedestrian traffic. It's kind of scary. I almost got hit by a bus, I'm not going to lie. But she saw it, I didn't see it, but, I would have been with the Lord, not knowing it. But they don't stop, they don't stop for anyone. I mean, here actually, people will avoid you. There, I think they try to hit you. So we were in a big, to give an explanation, we were crossing a street and we were kind of like halfway across the street and had to stop in a median area, and there was like 20 of us in this pack, and we all kind of had to lean in. There was very little place for us to stand, and buses were going this way and that way, and they said I almost got clipped by a mirror or something. So, but it was pretty crazy. Any other questions?
They have those big mirrors hanging out. Ooh, my life flash forward.
It was great.
But
we made it back.
We did.
So, any other questions? Thank you. Yes, sir. Tom, can I give you the mic, Tom? Real loud.
Is there like gun control, like the common people there, or what's that like?
Gun control, yes. We saw a lot of people that were, they were wearing pistols. No, not pistols. I saw. Well, I was looking for that, I guess. Well, they had big AR-15 type rifles as well. You see 17, 18-year-old girls walking around with AR-15 strapped to their back. That's a little different than here. And they can join the military, I think, at the age of 17, 18. I believe every Israeli citizen has to do 2 years in the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, which I think, and I just kind of thought about this after going there, that's a great name, Israeli Defense Forces. They're just trying to protect their land. And they're not attacking people I mean, they're fighting back, but all of these attacks that have happened to Israel have been without provocation. They didn't do anything. They're defending themselves. So I guess that's just my opinion now. Yes?
Guns are off-duty soldiers?
A lot of them are. Most of the people you'll see with AR-15s, I believe they would have to be off-duty soldiers. But we saw a lot of military garb, so a lot of even on-duty soldiers around everywhere. Yeah. But a lot of citizens were carrying what I saw they were carrying pistols on their sidearms, which was great. I felt safe. We did hear when we were by Gaza, we heard automatic gunfire across the border and some ordnance blowing up, but we chose to be in that area. We didn't, some people have to live there, but most of the country, especially Jerusalem, is very safe. So, all right. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Blanca. I think I know what you're asking. I felt tired, to be honest with you, but when we got into Jerusalem, before that, all the different sites, felt like what they say, when you're in the land where the Bible's written, the Bible comes alive. And especially Jerusalem. The empty tomb, that was not like a big shock to us. We just were in there a few seconds and left. But we had some time of reflection, which was great too. But just seeing some of the unexcavated sites. And just to know, we believe this by faith, but science, archaeology, geology, all of this backs up what the Bible says. So that's just an awesome, awesome thing to kind of realize, and it's more tangible. You can feel it, right? Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, it was wonderful. Yes. It was great. It was great. All right. Anyone else? So I'm taking questions, but I'm sorry if I'm going too long here, so forgive me. Yes. Oh, right. It was like a temporary place. So I think it was like a year or so. They would leave the body in there. Then they come. Of course, they would embalm it, like what the ladies did in the Bible. But they would leave a body in there, and then later they would take the bones and they would place it in a niche. Usually the tombs would be like a big family crypt, and they'd have little niches and places that they put the bodies. And yeah. Ossuary, yeah.
And only wealthy people would actually have a tomb like the one that they let Jesus use. Yeah. And so that was very significant and special.
Sure. There's a lot that I didn't realize about Israel and about just Jewish culture and life. That's something I learned there. You can go to Bible college and learn a lot of things, but I think some things just go right over your head, because we think of things in terms of America, what we know, our worldview, and then you go there and you're like, this is different, and it's great. It's just so educational. Any other question? And of course, I'll be happy to answer any other time as well. You send me an email or we can talk. Yes, ma'am, Zaya. Who are you saying? Uh-huh.
So we study the Bible now every day, read it. And so it's so important to do that, because when you're listening to someone else, if you know the truth by reading the Bible for yourself and knowing the Lord, and someone else says something that's not true, you almost know it right away. You're like, oh, that's not true. That's not what the Bible says. So that's why it's really important to know it for yourself. And so we were blessed to have a tour guide that not only he knew the land and the geography, but he also knew the Bible too. There were a few things that we kind of caught on to, but
Yeah, very good question, Zaya. Anyone else have another question? Anyone else? Yes, ma'am, Miss Naomi.
I was curious what y'all's favorite places were, and I heard Stewart, but
do you want to share?
I was just going to mention Bethlehem.
We'll try this again.
I really did enjoy Bethlehem. We actually drove down the Bethlehem Road where Mary and Joseph would have walked, and that cave that I was standing in, that was actually a video, but that was literally, a couple 100 feet off of that path. And I was just imagining Mary saying, all right, Joseph, this baby is coming now. And so they had to just find a place. And there was also a well there that David would have got water for his sheep there. It was, surrounded by hills where shepherds keep sheep. And so many things. And I think one of the things that, I know, but I didn't really comprehend is just how close everything is. We would drive 3 hours and we would have been through 10 different stories of the Bible, whereas we think, oh, that's so far away. It wasn't. It was all just right in this little place, and they're walking to these places. And so, but I think Bethlehem was my probably favorite.
Yeah, I like that spot too. That was a good spot. The story in the Bible where David was saying, oh, if I could just get a drink from the well of Bethlehem. Yes. And his brave men went back, and they went through behind enemy lines, and they got the water, and they brought it back to him. And he said, this is, there was lives, blood shed because of this water. And he said, I'm not worthy to drink this water, but he poured it out on the ground as an offering to the Lord. But Brother Scudder, who was showing us this spot, he said, look at all of the limestone that's around here. He said, all of that is feeding into this water, this cistern as well. He said, this is why the water at Bethlehem may have tasted sweet and may have been something that he was craving. And just kind of a neat thing to kind of realize all of the reality of it. I mean, that makes it more real in a sense. So, all right. Anything else? Anyone else? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, go ahead, brother.
Did you kind of get the feeling like the Catholic Church tried to take the whole thing over? I mean, that's kind of what I heard about Israel. It's
Yeah.
kind of confusing because everyone's trying to, claim their argument, mainly the Catholics.
So I would say, like the site that we're telling you about, that was only, a lot of things are being uncovered. Like 5 years ago, they found, I didn't even go over Caesarea Maritima where we went, but there's a cistern there that the Apostle Paul was actually kept in that cistern for 5 days because it was used as a jail. And that was not uncovered until 5 years ago. They knew it was there. They'd use ground penetrating radar to find the site, and it was underneath the judgment hall where Paul would have stood with Felix, if you remember, and Herod. And so that just kind of made you realize not everything that the Catholics labeled or the Catholic Church went over and said, this is this and this is this. Only a few things have really been uncovered. Some of it is correct. Some of it, they actually found the actual sites, and they preserved it. But some of the things that were kept underground, the ground preserved the site. So, hey, there's so much to see. I never really felt like they laid claim to everything. In fact, I wasn't there before 1948, before the Jewish people came back in, but the Muslims occupied the land for a long, long, long time, even after the medieval conquests or the Crusaders that came through. So, any other question? Thank you. Great question. Yes. That's fine.
Was there any talk or any mention of, the temple or building the new temple?
Yes.
Was there anything, you guys talking about that? Was that a big discussion?
Yes. Actually, when we were at Bethlehem, there's several condos, but there was a condo that was on the top floor, and they had a big Israeli flag. And Pastor Scudder said, up there is a friend of mine, and he's the guy he's from Texas, and he brought the 5 red heifers into Israel for the temple sacrifices, which they're not eligible to use anymore. They're going to have to get some different heifers. But they brought in these cows, and he's like, yeah, that's a friend of mine. And he texted him. He comes out on the porch, and he waves at us. And we're like, okay, that's interesting, because I've heard about this in the news. And but there's the Jewish people, the Jewish leadership have assembled all of the implements for the temple that they need. Don't ask me where the Ark of the Covenant is, because we didn't find that while we were there, but it's possibly underneath the Temple Mount. We're not sure. But any other questions? Yeah, don't go through the wrong tunnel. I've actually seen videos of people trying to get down in there, and it's pretty crazy. There are a lot of things underground. That's what we found.
And I think it's important to remember that there are Christians there, but not everyone is a Christian. You could live in the land of the Bible and not know the true Messiah. And so I think we had the opportunity to meet, evangelical Jewish pastors and pastors' wives, and we met an Arab couple who were Muslim, and now they're believers, and they're trying to start a church. But they have the same battles we do with different religions and people that don't like them now that they know the true Messiah. So it's important to keep the believers in prayer in Israel as well, because they're fighting battles just like we are here.
We met a sweet Arab couple she's mentioning, formerly Muslim, got saved. They established a church, and they're facing persecution. So, I mean, this is it's so eclectic, the group of people that are there, evangelical, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, and they're actually facing persecution not from other Muslims, which was what we thought. They're reaching tons and tons of kids in their vacation Bible schools. As I said, the Jewish people don't hold vacation Bible. Jewish Christians, it's the Muslims in their Muslim community, or Palestinian,
Arabs,
as you hear, like kind of like a Palestinian areas, and their persecution is not coming from other Arabs or Muslims or Jews. It's coming from a Catholic priest. Just one Catholic priest. They were mentioning this, like he got jealous that they were having all of these kids and they were bringing all these people into their church, and so he tried to disrupt all of that. But there was definitely just one thing. I'll end with this. And you have more questions, you can. But Lynn Rosenberg shared the first day about how many people come to Israel to view the stones and the relics, or not the relics, not us, but the sites, all of the things that have been uncovered, the dead stones, she said. She's like, but don't forget about the living stones that are here, the Jewish people who they care about. And Joel and Lynn Rosenberg have an organization called the Joshua Fund, which they funnel a lot of the money that he's made through writing books, $12 million a year. They funnel that into different outreaches to save and reach Jewish people. Not only Israel, they say it's to bless Israel and her neighbors. So they care about the Egyptians, the Lebanese, and the Jordanians, and even those in Gaza. And they love to reach all people for Christ. So she said, don't forget about the living stones while you're here. So it was awesome to get to see that couple and many others. So any other questions? I think we need to probably close it down here tonight. I'll be happy to talk after church, but let's go ahead and close in prayer. And we're thankful for just this great opportunity to get to go. And we'd love for all of you to go someday, see Israel. And if you don't get to go in this lifetime, you get to go in the millennium, okay? All right. Father, I pray that you bless. Thank you for this night. I pray that you'd just help us, Lord, to take the tools, the things that we've learned and seen, and use them for your glory. I pray that you would, God, bless our friends in Israel, the Jewish people that have been persecuted, and for the Arabs and those that are not saved. But we pray also for the churches, the congregations that have been established by believers to reach the Jewish people. There's been a dearth of evangelicalism and evangelism for centuries. And yet in the last 70 plus years, we've seen churches starting and people getting saved. So we thank you for that. But I do pray that you bless the Rosenbergs, and I pray for the Connollys and those that went on the trip with us, Brother Scudder, his ministry, and I thank you for them. And bless our